everybody. Welcome to the podcast today. We've got returning guest Maya Diane.
Hello.
Hey. Sorry. Now I just can't stop laughing. Um, well, one of the topics that I was going to ask about, because this came up like a number of times, and it's kind of like in regards to cheating. And it's like, so what is it when someone and is it even cheating or is it making a decision to do what they would like to do? And so there's so many, I have a lot of questions about this. So I guess I would ask like, okay, so what is this? What is this cheating thing?
Yeah, that's really what is cheating, I think, is a great place to start because, again, we are talking here about consciousness and conscious relationships. And that's very, very, very different than right relationships or wrong relationships. And it's also an exploration, like, people there's so many versions of this and there's not one way to do it, and the greatest thing is to get to what's true for you. And most of our lives we're doing shoulda, coulda, woulda, following
Yeah.
certain rules and regulations that we're not even sure why we're following or what we're doing. And then we tap into history where everybody who was royalty or aristocracy and above, you could say, was doing whatever they wanted with regards to copulation. Again, like I think the cheating thing only comes when body parts touched, right? Like mostly it's
I would say, unless it's like
mostly
an
it's
emotional thing.
yeah, yeah. So it's like there are these social standards that are probably fairly newer than we actually want to consider. And so very time limited, very structured, very like seem real and true. And then we have to live by that, although usually it doesn't work for anybody, kind of thing. And then we tap into something new, like, I don't know, conscious relationships or mindfulness, or we just choose something new. And then it's like, oh, okay, so if I start off asking myself questions, what is this and what will work for me? And even when I say the word cheating, what does cheating mean to me? Like we have this way in Access to go into self-exploration with with clearing the energetics of the self-exploration. Like sometimes when you just do
Hmm.
self-exploration, you might
Hmm.
just be digging yourself deeper into a rabbit hole kind of thing. But if you clear the energy of it, usually you get to more clarity, I would say.
I mean, I guess the question would be like, what would I like to create? And I also what I see with this whole cheat, like we'll use the term cheating because that's the
Yeah.
way people will get
No, it's
it.
good
But
because it's also charged.
oh yeah, totally. What I've noticed is the other party typically does whatever they want to do. So it's like one person will, in a relationship, the other person's either gonna, go and not cheat or go and cheat, and then they'll say like, there's a lot of, excuse me, like, oh my God, there's just so much going on right now where the person goes and does it, but then if you're the loyal person, but here there's like, it's like why not do whatever you want to do because that person's going to do whatever they want to do. And when if you were to be completely loyal and just sit there and be like, okay, well, I will be at home and I will do nothing and I'm not going to pursue anyone. Meanwhile, you have the choice to, like, there's like a number of people that you could be seeing or having your needs fulfilled.
Mhm.
It's like, where do you make the choice to consciously go and do what you would like to do? Because, the other counterpart, if you're like, what I've noticed in my personal experience, I've noticed like I can sense when the other person is like going and doing whatever they want with whoever they want, even though we're in a committed relationship. And then I've also had people go and then do whatever, like go and cheat. And then they come back and say, yeah, I've cheated. I've messed with somebody else. And I'm like, well, this is very interesting because like I've been the loyal, faithful, monogamous person. And I'm like, so where is this? when do you get the choice to do whatever you want to do and be whatever you want to be without all these entanglements?
Which is interesting with everything you presented. You also showed how the usually when you're holding up to a standard that's not even yours, usually you're only hurting yourself kind of thing. And again, that's where the choice thing comes in. There's a lot of books about it, and there's also that's why usually the relationship done different classes, at least 3 days of exploration, because as you presented in a very short time here, like there's a lot in every one of those situations.
Well, it's
And
like, how do you explain it?
yeah. So the first thing I wanted to mention is an example that Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, writes about in one of his books. I think Divorce with Relationship, but I can't totally
Oh, that's a good
vouch
book.
for that. But
Yeah.
there, he's talking about an 8-year-old woman or 9-year-old woman who came to live with him towards the last years of her life. They were close friends, and her husband died, so she was alone. And he brought her in, and he had lots of conversations with her because she had a very interesting life.
Hmm.
And one of the conversations was about what honoring means to her, and she mentioned
Oh,
how honoring her was that her husband, he had some kind of job that involved traveling. So to her, honoring meant that he can honor his needs when he's on the road, and honoring him means he can honor his needs when he's on the road, and honoring her means that he will never tell her about it. Is that a
yeah.
bit more old fashioned? Is that a bit less nowadays? Maybe not. Maybe nowadays everybody wants to communicate everything,
And that's what it is. Yeah.
and then sometimes it's the question, like, does it actually work to communicate everything? Maybe yes, maybe no. Again, it's like the hard thing, quote unquote, with consciousness is there's a lot of questions and not many answers, and it's a self-discovery thing with
Hmm.
yourself, because what will work for me won't work for Shauna, and what will work for Shauna won't necessarily work for me. But it's part of that honesty with self. Like, do I want to know? Do I not want to know? Do I want to have a clear deal and deliver with the person I'm with before
Hmm.
we go deeper and more serious? Does does the person I'm with have any interest in doing a deal and deliver? Like, the
Yeah.
more I'm aware of who I'm with and what I'm trying to create here, the more possibilities there are. But maybe,
Mm.
um, yeah, maybe the other side, I'm not necessarily with a conscious person. Like it's totally, it's not a wrongness. It's not, we're not superior if we choose to do mindfulness and the other person doesn't, but maybe there isn't a place to do that deal and deliver. So what
Uh,
do I want to choose? Like it's constantly like, what do I want to choose? What's going to honor me? What's going to honor them? Because also when we do that separation of like, fuck them, usually it's not honoring myself either. And I know that somewhere inside, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just going
yeah.
to do whatever I want, usually doesn't include me and doesn't include them. And we forget that.
Whoa, wait. Can you speak a little bit more on that? Because
Um,
that's that part where you're okay. So like, because this happens a lot, and I think this is a lot of people what I've seen, where they're just like, well, I'm just gonna go do whatever I want. I'm just gonna
yeah.
go like, and then it's all these like reactions, avoiding, defending. Because it's like, for example, if there's one person and they're like, oh, well, my partner's just gonna like, if they think in their brain, which is limited, that what in like, there's so many things that people can think in their brain.
Mhm.
But then their whole,
Which get us in trouble always.
yeah, but then their actions and behaviors are like, well, then I'm just going to go do what I want. They make these decisions to go and cheat.
Right.
And then, or to stonewall. And stonewalling is when people like totally shut down in communication and then they don't answer. And it's a very, in the psychological terms, it would be a violent form of communication, whereas there are nonviolent forms of communication. Anyways, but yeah, so, but And then another thing is what you said earlier is to be aware of who you're with. And
Mm,
being aware of who you're with could save so much time and energy. Jesus.
yeah. Yeah.
But
It's
like when,
also,
yeah.
let's say Bill had a point of view that he has to share everything.
Hmm.
That, which is the husband of the woman the old woman I was talking about before,
Hmm.
then he's not honoring her.
Hmm.
Because if he's aware of her needs and her needs is not to know, and
Hmm.
she actually genuinely, she doesn't care. She just doesn't want to know.
Hmm.
Then somebody coming and saying, I have to lay my truth upon you is actually very dishonoring.
Well, and that's what I mean, I've seen that happen. I've had that happen where people are just, it's a very interesting hurt because it's almost like, and it's very interesting, one, to be choosing all that energy, hurt, and heaviness. And then two, for the person to be dishonoring and be like, by the way, I slept with every single person in the Bible, because that's a long list of names, you know. It's a huge book and there's a lot of people in it, right?
Hopefully, we at least know how thick the Bible is, even if we didn't read it.
There are many different versions, the small type and then the
Definitely.
extra thick type. Anyways, but yeah, but it's very interesting because it's like, yeah, and who wants to hear all that? You might be a person who wants to hear everything. Tell me what you ate, like, tell me what you ate, tell me who you saw, tell me when you breathed last. Or it's like, who has the time to listen to, you know, everything you did like last week or the week that you didn't see the person.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot
And
of talking.
again, it's really because you spoke before about, or we were talking about truth, and that is a concept that is confusing in itself because we lie to ourselves all the time. So even the initial exploration in consciousness is be truth to yourself, like start being truthful at least to yourself, even if you're not with anybody else. Like, and that's like unraveling so many layers and so many years of living in a society that's so used to living from lies, more than I can even describe right now.
Well,
um,
it's we're talking about
yeah,
so much here.
yeah. So then, like, you have this isolated thing of being with a person and cheating or not cheating, and it's kind of hard to like talk only about that thing because there's so many things that created that moment. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and if you were truthful with yourself, what would work for you? And what, like, would you have conflict? What, like, all those things would suddenly be just like,
The deal and deliver, I think, is a huge thing because it's like, um, it'll either work with a person or it won't work with a person, or like you said, being aware of who the person is. But a deal and deliver is basically having a conversation and, making a deal and making sure that it is delivered. So it's like, oh, I would like to be monogamous, or I would like to be faithful,
yeah,
or hey, we can see other people, we can keep this open. What works for
right,
you? And then that's a
right.
bit more honoring, just in case people don't know what deal and deliver is.
Supposedly, and even with that, like, because we don't know ourselves to such a degree, a lot of
Hmm.
times we say that we desire one thing, but or commit to one thing, and then we do the complete opposite, which again,
Hmm.
it's not wrong. It's like you're if you know that everybody's like doing their best and or just doing everything that they were taught, kind of thing, like, oh,
Or
okay, if I just say that I promise, then my mom will leave me alone, kind of thing.
or they're doing everyone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm just kidding. Well, and I guess with cheating, it's like the what would be the easiest way to not be hurt and move on for people who have been cheated on?
Wow.
It's like we're at the end of the call, but we're gonna ask
Are
you one
we?
more. No, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not paying attention to time here.
Yeah.
We got some time.
Wow, because it really, like, It really depends where you're at. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, you're doing something to have more consciousness, awareness, mindfulness, whatever you want to call it, self-empowerment in any kind of way, because then you start learning that you create everything that shows up in your life, the
Mhm.
good, the bad, the ugly. It's not wrong. I think both me and Shauna can talk about all kinds of weird, not so great things that we attracted to our lives. And it's
Mhm.
not wrong if you learn from it, if that empowers you to choose something different next time, if you are greater after that, like,
Yeah.
you know, and even if all I do is acknowledge, oh, okay, I actually chose the victim mode when somebody cheated on me.
Mhm.
Even that is like being more truthful with myself.
I think we've done Access for so long that when a topic like cheating comes up, we're like that little chinchilla that goes boom and like just it's like done. Like, well, because chinchillas hop around, so it's like you're
Yeah,
kind of like hopping around, like, oh, okay, on to the next, or oh, this happened, cool, what's next? And it's like you don't have really time to be like,
yeah.
oh my God, they cheated on me. Like when I'm
No,
just
and I
I'm.
know it can be a no, but let's acknowledge this can be a huge thing in somebody's life.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
let's say I have a partner, but it doesn't even matter sometimes if it's for many years or it's a newer
Hmm.
relationship, but they're everything to me. Like, yeah, so it can hurt. B, it can be devastating. C, I might have to now change this whole relationship situation. Maybe we're living to like there's a lot of things involved when these things show up. And what if it could be a gift? What if it could be a beginning of exploring what's actually important to me? What if it can be the first step for me to start to empower myself for something else, to know that I never want to choose to be in this level of drama ever again? Like
Yeah.
it could be so many things.
I wrote down this song called Future X, and it's really funny because she's being sarcastic. She's like, I hope you, it's so funny because it's a good song and it always makes me think, because basically she's talking about her future ex and she's like, I hope you break my heart. I hope you cheat on me. And she's like, thank you, future ex. And I'll send it to you when we're
Wow.
done. Um, but no, like, and even though we have a lot of tools to deal with it. Yeah, you're right. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt because it does, and it sucks. And it's like, wow, okay. I think a lot of people going through breakups, which is another thing, maybe even after the cheating, can never, like, sometimes it can never be that easy. But um, I mean, I would also ask, well, when did you leave the relationship? When did they leave the relationship? And just kind of take a look at it to be easy and softer on yourself. Me, I'm just like ready to rock and roll and bounce. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay. Like,
Next.
well, trying, like, sometimes I guess what I've noticed is it can be difficult when you've gone through it so many times. And it's
Mhm.
like, whoa, what am I choosing here?
Right.
Heavy still? Okay, still choosing heavy. Still choosing lies. Still choosing to avoid my awareness.
Mhm.
And that's just one of those things to look at. And it's like, who does anybody like what exactly are we looking at when we are assessing or moving on or healing or asking a question? And asking a question
Mhm.
could change a lot of things.
Yeah, it's also interesting with everything you're talking about because my daughter was going through stuff with mean girls, and I was talking to some client about like relatives talking in a mean way to the kids. So it's like when we choose consciousness or we choose something different, it doesn't mean immediately that the whole world is now going to sing kumbaya. And the only thing it means is that we get to empower ourselves to respond differently and to choose differently. And it could also involve choosing how much time you're spending with those relatives or stuff like it could actually also include that, or like I don't want these mean girls to be my friends anymore, whatever. But it's always more from a place of empowering yourself and like and victimhood. Like we're talking about things that's so embedded in our society. Like every religion has such a story with victimhood. So you're not alone. You're not wrong. You're not, none of us are perfect. And we get to choose way more nowadays, like to have resources, to have conversations and consciousness, to have
Mhm.
any mindfulness center in your neighborhood. Like there's so many things that you can choose to act upon and just have more ease with all of it.
I guess I have a question. So, with the meanness, with mean people, sometimes it's really acknowledging, okay, like that was mean, and ask a question, okay, are you doing this to be mean to me? And okay, I'm going to use myself as an example because I don't want to put this on anybody else's shoulders, but like, if someone's being mean, like, let's just say I'm being mean, how would one consciously choose to not be mean?
Mm,
You
wow,
know?
that's really like choice by choice by choice by choice, and knowing that will fail, and like really, it's in the way they describe vulnerability, they say they also add the piece of like, and I know that I'm going to be an asshole sometimes. Like it's that
Yeah,
being the open wound that includes everything. Like,
yeah.
and I just think you can own it a bit more when you're vulnerable. Like sometimes when we're mean, but we're also trying to be right, then we won't own it. We also won't say sorry, like a lot of things.
Hmm.
We won't own our choices.
Right.
But when we're vulnerable, and that is, we're not 100% perfect 100% time of the day kind of thing, then okay, yeah, that happens too. I I'd like to choose different next time. Okay, cool. What can I choose next time? Like part of being more aware is that I can take everything that happens to learn and to kind of evolve the next time it shows up. Like something that the creator of Access Consciousness says is like that a horse won't fall in that ditch twice kind of thing. And that's where
Hmm.
people, when we learn to function from so much unconsciousness, the only reason we keep falling into that ditch is because we won't look at the thing from vulnerability and see what we chose, why we chose it, and choose differently next time kind of thing.
The most beautiful thing I got from what you were saying energetically is the allowance in vulnerability.
Mm.
And that's just so beautiful. Wow, thank you for that. Well, I mean,
Yeah, because even with the mean conversation, if I'm also being mean to myself, on top of that, I'm not creating anything greater, anyways, kind of thing. Okay, cool. I was mean. Awesome. I what can I do now? Can I apologize to this person? Can I just learn something from it and move on?
mhm,
Like it really also depends on the person and the situation, and it,
mhm.
it won't always even involve the other person, but it's like for me to choose greater next time.
Wow. Thank you for this conversation.
Yay.
I am so excited to unleash this into the universe.
Now I
And
think we're at the end.
and I hope we've created, more possibility and consciousness for people in those relationships where there's the cheating or there's not, or there's the meanness or there's not, and different choices in every 10 seconds, or the choice, I was going to say four possibilities to, to class.
Any kind of hurt, like what can this teach me? What can this show me for a more empowered future?
Mhm. Wow. Really cool conversation. Thanks, Maya.
Thank you.
We will talk again soon.
Always a pleasure.